The King's Avatar, Chapter 1282. After Round 18, audio source, WuxaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1282, After Round 18. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Wind Howl lost. A thorough, bitter loss. Even though their team competitors had always had the style of bullying the weak and fearing the strong, their individual round performances had always been quite good. They'd won 2 points against Samsara, 4 points against Tyranny, and 3 points against Blue Rain. Aside from Samsara, in which they'd been slightly weaker, against Tyranny and Blue Rain, Wind Howl had won the majority of the individual round points. But when it came to the team competition, a team that lacked strategic focus was that much more vulnerable in front of powerful enemies. In the team competition, it was clear that passion and spirit weren't enough to win. And this time, Wind Howl hadn't even managed to win a victory in the individual rounds, either. 0-10. Wind Howl lost cleanly and completely. Amidst the jeers and laughter of the stadium filled with happy fans. The 6 players from Wind Howl who'd played in the team competition were drooping like that team flag in the midst of their fans, never to fly again. This was the first time this season Wind Howl had lost so badly. In fact, it had been several years since they'd earned 0 points in a match. How long would it be before Wind Howl was never again swept like this? Wind Howl's members were stunned. In terms of length of time they'd been in the team, each players was shorter than the next. Had they paid attention to Wind Howl's past before? They were the ones who hated and abandoned Wind Howl's long-standing dirty play style, and it seemed that they had never bothered to note this team's past and tradition. Accepting the cheers of the crowd, Happy's players left the stage. 10-0, another 10-0, and the fact that they'd won this over a strong team like Wind Howl only made this achievement even more joyful. Their performance from start to finish had been exceptional. Ye Zhu came up and wiped out Tang Hao, Fang Rui scored a record-setting 1v3, and then they'd easily defeated their opponents in the team competition. Just as Wind Howl's die-hard fans were beginning to doubt their team, Happy's fans were only swelling with belief toward their team. In the post-match press conference, even Lu Hao didn't have the heart to try and please the media. Amidst all the doubts, Wind Howl gave a few words of official, meaningless talk, and then forcefully ended their press conference. Then, Happy's players came up, and Fang Rui was immediately the subject of attention. A record-setting 1v3 against his old mother team. Wasn't this a thrilling topic? As soon as the group arena had finished, the reporters had frantically prepared all sorts of questions, and now they tossed him about heroically. During this press conference, Happy's other members were basically invisible. Round 18 finished. Happy's victory over Wind Howl was the big highlight. This time Samsara, Happy's direct competitors in terms of 10-0 scores, lost to Happy. In their home game against Thunderclap, Samsara lost an individual round, and ultimately won the match 9-1. This match that had been chosen for the television broadcast finally allowed the broadcasters to feel no regrets about their choice. This was truly an extremely exciting match, especially the team competition at the end. There was a great disparity in both players and characters. One reporter added up the value of the players and characters in each team's roster for comparison. And the power indicated by those numbers only made this match feel even more like they were trying to use an egg to crack a rock. But ultimately, the two teams had fought in the team competition for 33 minutes, which was extremely rare to see in a match against the powerful team that was Samsara. It could be seen that they faced many hit and runs. Relying on their seemingly much cheaper roster, Thunderclap played a careful and calculating death battle against Thunderclap. Samsara's ultimate victory had been extremely difficult, and some people had even thought during the match that it was a good thing this was Samsara's home game. If it had been Thunderclaps, then Samsara's golden win streak might have finally been broken. After that, the strategy that Samsara had used to obtain victory was exactly the same strategy that Happy had used to defeat Thunderclap in round 16. In the end, Samsara's Sun Xiang had forcefully broken his way through countless obstacles, performing exceptionally well to drag down Xiao Shichen. Even though his One Autumn Leaf didn't have the same crazy attack rhythm as the unspecialized Lord Grim, the offensive power of the other members of Samsara was generally a step higher than that of Happy. Ultimately, Samsara had relied on this one opportunity to shatter Thunderclap's strategic plans. This was raw power destroying refinement, and many people felt that it was a shame that Thunderclap lost. And after this destruction, the question of whether or not to open voice channels was once again brought up. Thunderclap, who had once taken advantage of the rule but then suffered twice, finally stood firmly with Blue Rain as a victim of the rule. And this time, the opponents of the ban on voice comms made their point unusually clearly: the rules were killing the development of Glory. After seeing that strategy had been completely destroyed by power, one could imagine, in the future, why would anyone bother to study these sort of refined strategies? Because even if they developed them, they would be of no use. After several teams in a row successfully used these methods in battle, then the shot callers of the more strategy-oriented teams would face all sorts of suppression, the goal simply being to prevent him from having the time to type words. This is a slaughter of Glory strategy. If this continues, then all we will see in future battles are crude, brute force competence of raw, hand speed. And Glory was more than just that. The opponents of this rule let their voices resound, and all sides began paying more attention to this than before. At first, Thunderclap had profited from this rule, but the two subsequent times, they had suffered from it. And they were also without a doubt a team that performed tactics to the peak level. Even before this season, Thunderclap was always this kind of team, but during that time they hadn't had this kind of unbelievable performance. But after Xiao Shichen went and played around in the Challenger League, it was like the team had become gold-plated. Even though they'd been defeated by Happy in round 16, that hadn't seemed to waver their belief at all. Facing Samsara, this unbelievably powerful opponent, Xiao Shichen once again prepared carefully. He continued to believe that their team Thunderclap had the ability to defeat any opponent. This determination moved many people, and Xiao Shichen's popularity this season exploded. Even with a collection of nameless, ordinary players who were nothing compared to a powerhouse team, they'd still managed to obtain such shing results. This had never before happened in the history of the Alliance. Happy, the self-proclaimed grassroots team, in reality had 3 all-star level players, 2 all-star characters, and an evildoer unspecialized that no one in the Alliance could grow accustomed to. It had been a long while since anyone thought of Happy as a grassroots team. WashOurWorldAudio.com. Even though Thunderclap still lost to Samsara, this loss carried a lot of weight. The debate over allowing voice comms grew more and more heated. Some people even demanded that they not wait until next season to change the rules for something like this. If they could change it, they should change as soon as possible. Of course, the Alliance couldn't just say they'd change it. After the first time this had come up, they'd been studying this problem non-stop. With a new wave of pressure from public opinion, they focused harder on this issue. And after the end of round 18, the rankings saw new changes. Samsara strongly didn't change, but after Happy swept Wind Howl, their ranking rose again. They were now in 5th place with the same number of points as Tyranny. This round, Tyranny had played a home game, but lost 2-8 to 100 Blossoms. Because of Zhang Jiale, these two teams had a rather strong conflict. 100 Blossoms' away game victory this round caused the die-hard team following fans to become carried away in their relation. But the blood of Tyranny fans ran hot, and brawls broke out in Tyranny's stadium. Even though they'd been provoked by the excessive behavior of the 100 Blossoms fans, it was the host side that generally had to take responsibility for these sort of entanglements. Fortunately, no injuries had resulted, and the Alliance only gave Tyranny a serious warning. Tyranny suffered, and because of their failure this round, they'd slid down to 4th place, with 127 points like Happy Blue Rain and Tiny Herb had each taken down their opponents, and were currently in 2nd and 3rd place. On Blue Rain's side, they faced quite a bit of disruption earlier after losing points to weaker teams. But judging from their recent performance, that had just been a temporary downturn. After adjusting, their scores instantly improved, and in just a few moves they had charged back to 2nd place on the rankings. Tiny Herb continued their beautiful win streak in the group arena. In this round, they only lost one individual round to Misty Rain, and won by a large margin of 9-1. Misty Rain's situation was becoming more and more alarming. With 87 points, they were already 21 points away from the playoff zone, and right behind them, Miracle was quickly catching up to them with 83 points. And this new team, Miracle, was only improving with every battle. If Misty Rain was said to still have hope at making the playoffs, then Miracle, only 4 points behind them, also seemed to have this chance. This had a great deal to do with the change in attitude of the three former Excellent Era players. These three were originally very depressed about their fall, and they all hoped that they'd quickly find a new home. They all fought quite hard, but how much of it was for their team, that was unknown. But because of their hard work, Miracle actually managed to earn quite good results. Praise came in from all sides, causing them to become overjoyed. They had come from a powerhouse, and there, they had only ever been side characters. Whenever the team had results, it was very rarely because of them. But now, in this team Miracle, the three had gradually gained a true sense of owning this home. This team's scores were earned through their hard work. The heartfelt cheers of the fans were meant for them. This sort of fortune steadily let them feel satisfied, and they steadily set down the arrogance bred from their time in a powerhouse. In the private messages between the three of them, they began to recognize that being in Miracle was really quite good. The three of them began to fight not only for themselves, but for the team. And so the new team's scores became more and more stable. Now, the season was half over, and they were actually in 12th place. If Happy weren't here stealing all the spotlight, then Team Miracle really would have lived up to their name, becoming the most miraculous new team in Glory history. But even in this current situation, Miracle would no longer be overlooked by everyone. After 18 rounds, the media reported on the state of the Alliance after this round and the circulating topics. But just 2 days after the end of this round, a piece of particularly attention-grabbing news appeared in the headlines of all the major media. Team Wind Howl, with an asking price of 15 million, was seeking to purchase Team Tyranny's Zhang Jiale. End chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1283. Golden Body Broken. Audio source, WuXiaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1283, Golden Body Broken. Translator, Gnome Yummy. Editor, Gnome Yummy. 15 million. Putting aside the target player for now, just this amount was enough to set off stormy waves. The news revealed was very clear that this price didn't include the character, only the player. Without a doubt, if this transfer was successfully completed, the value of professional Glory players would reach a new high. It was worth noting that the current record for the most expensive player transfer was already set by Team Windhowl. In the summer window between seasons 8 and 9, Tang Hao transferred to Windhowl, and that price of 10 million was currently the highest. The winter transfer window was generally only for small adjustments and supplements, or if a team need to fill a hole because of illness or other such special reasons. When Excellent Era obtained Sun Shang in Season 8, that was a rarely seen core player transfer. But that, too, was only because Yi Shu had retired mid-season and Excellent Era was forced to fill the gap. And now, Windhowl directly pulled out a record-breaking transfer offer for Tyranny's Zhang Xinjie. It was clear that they had completely recognized the problems with the team and were eager to solve it. Was Zhang Xinjie the magic treasure that would solve all of Windhowl's problems? When everyone thought about it, they realized that Windhowl had made a fairly correct decision in choosing a player. After giving up on the dirty playstyle, Windhowl was unable to establish a new tactical system. Bringing in a master tactician would undoubtedly help in this area. Windhowl hoped to establish a new playstyle that involved strong offense, and since Zhang Xinjie came from Tyranny, he would entirely be able to adapt to such a style. But in the end, relying on acquiring a new team member to solve the problem was a solution for when there was no other way. Choosing Zhang Xinjie seemed to be a correct choice. But the important point was that you couldn't just buy any transfer you wanted, especially if you were targeting the core player of the other team. So Windhowl didn't even bother probing carefully, they directly gave this record-breaking price of 15 million. Evidently they didn't have any win-win trade to offer, so they could only use money to open the way, and hope that they could strike a price that Tyranny had no way of rejecting. Everyone's eyes were focused. All sorts of media came to investigate, and quickly confirmed that this news was true. Team Windhowl indeed directly proposed an official transfer request to Team Tyranny. But without even waiting to discuss any specifics, Tyranny had already given a lightning-fast answer, announcing their reply directly through the media: declined. There had been no official discussion, just a simple refusal. Tyranny's fans hadn't even had the time to become worried before the official response of the club was there to reassure them. Tyranny's attitude seemed very resolute, but those who were familiar with transfer operations knew clearly that attitude sometimes was only a bargaining chip for the price. Tyranny's attitude showed that they wouldn't be moved by the price of 15 million. Then, what about more? Those looking forward to watch the excitement weren't disappointed. Less than an hour after Tyranny refused Windhowl's price, Windhowl followed up. 20 million. Double the record set by Tang Hao for a solo player transfer. Everyone recognized once and for all Windhowl's current insanity. This old team had never given people the impression of being a bold, rich, and ostentatious team. Yet as it turned out, they might be quiet when not moving, but when they moved, it was with the sound of thunder. A team begging for a big-name player? This was entertaining for any team's fans to watch. Windhowl's fans were still depressed over being swept by Happy, but they grew excited by Windhowl's continuously bold strokes. Added to the fact that Zhang Xinjie was a good choice, this caused the Windhowl fans to suddenly grow lively. Even as they waited in anticipation, they took the initiative to use their fan passion to send praises and welcomes to Zhang Xinjie. Everyone knew that in this transfer, the player's own opinion would have a great influence, especially for a big-name player like Zhang Xinjie. In the end, this time Tyranny hadn't even made an official reply when Zhang Xinjie already made his own announcement, expressing that he had absolutely no intention of leaving Team Tyranny. The passion of the Windhowl fans had only just been ignited when it was immediately extinguished by this bucket of cold water. Completely thrown off, they could only blankly wait for their own team's next step. Windhowl's two public price offers had already made them the talk of the town, but of course in reality, a transfer was never worked out without a direct conversation between the two sides. Windhowl was in private contact as well. 20 million wasn't their upper limit. This was just broadcast to increase the morale of the team and boost the hopes of the fans. But afterward, in the private negotiations, Wind Howl again kicked a steel wall. Neither Tyranny as a team nor Zhang Xinjie as an individual showed any sign of wavering. In private, Wind Howl had already raised the price to 25 million and promised even better accommodations for Zhang Xinjie. Refusal. They continued to receive nothing but refusal, that sort of immovable refusal with no room for negotiation. Wind Howl was helpless. Even as the outside world still anticipated Wind Howl to give an even higher price, in private, Wind Howl had hit the wall until their heads were bleeding. Their invitation toward Zhang Xinjie had instantly become a farce of loud thunder with only a drizzle of rain. When round 19 began, two small teams had already completed two transfers that didn't draw any attention at all, but Wind Howl. After those 2 days of noise, there was no more movement. The acquisition of Zhang Xinjie was unsuccessful, but they had made too much noise with this. The fans' hopes had all been lifted, but in the end it didn't work out. It had to be said that Wind Howl had been too confident with this. They'd had excessive belief in the power of money to open the road. It seemed that they hadn't even considered that in response to these prices and conditions, Tyranny and Zhang Xinjie would still say no to them. Wind Howl now need a backup plan to appease the fans whose hopes had been lifted. But just looking at healers, who in the current professional scene could compare to Zhang Xinjie? Besides, Wind Howl had hoped to solve the team's problems from the basis. Just swapping out a healer player would be to no avail. Wind Howl understood clearly that their current problem wasn't that their healer Ruan Yongbin maintained the dirty playstyle. The key point was that, after giving up on the dirty playstyle, the team had been unable to find a mature strategy to use in their matches. Wind Howl, unable to obtain Zhang Xinjie, seemed like a fly without a head. And in the upcoming round 19 of the league matches, Wind Howl faced another strong team, Tiny Herb. Tiny Herb had strong performances in the group arena all season, but their team competitions had caused some worry. After this match, however, everyone saw clearly that even if Tiny Herb's team performance wasn't the best, it was still more than enough to take care of Wind Howl. At least, they weren't as fragmented as Wind Howl, who relied entirely on each individual player's instinct and judgment to fight matches. 9-1. Tiny Herb played their away game at Wind Howl and ultimately achieved a large victory. Even though Wind Howl had scooped up one more point than they had last round, this 1 point was far from enough to make anyone happy. In the same round, Tyranny, who'd received Wind Howl's request for Zhang Xinjie, displayed their resolve, winning their away game at Void with a score of 8-2. But in round 19, the result that was most unexpected was that Samsara's golden win streak was broken. The team that had completed this snipe was 100 Blossoms. In their home game, they 7-3 against Samsara, previously undefeated in the team competition. Samsara's performance in this team competition was indeed not good that match. After the match, analysts pointed out that their long and slow match against Thunderclap last round had crushed Samsara's rhythm thus far. And in this match, they still hadn't been able to adjust their rhythm back to normal. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. But no matter the reason, victory belonged to 100 Blossoms. After 19 rounds, every team had faced each other exactly once, and only 100 Blossoms had managed to defeat Samsara. This was something that the 100 Blossoms fans could feel proud of. In all these years, this team had received much more mockery than praise, and they really didn't have many honors that they could claim as theirs and theirs alone. Samsara's golden body was broken, and this of course became headline news. But Happy was now no longer a little invisible team that would easily be overlooked and forgotten. In this round, Happy had also met their first loss since round 9, which also earned quite a bit of attention. This round, Happy had played their away game at 301, ultimately losing 4-6. After winning 4 points in the individual battles, Happy's supporters were sure that this would be yet another big victory and were lamenting the fact that this wouldn't be another 10-0. But in the team competition, Happy actually lost. Ever since round 9, not only had Happy won every match, their winning scores had never dipped below 9-1. This was a point-scoring rhythm even more fearsome than Samsara's. If the Pro League was only from rounds 9 to 18, then the championship would already belong to Happy. It was true that Happy hadn't met any of the top powerhouses in their crazy win streak, but teams like Misty Rain, Void, Thunderclap, Wind Howl weren't opponents that could be casually defeated. The ferocious thing was that when Happy faced these 4 strong opponents, their scores had actually been even higher. Among these 4 matches, they'd earned 3 10-0s. Happy's results these 10 rounds had been even more insane than Samsara's, and everyone recognized Happy's strength. But no one really treated them as some invincible fleet, because Happy always had a weak point, their healer. From the very beginning, people had realized that his skill wasn't enough. This wasn't any secret, this was something that even the newspapers reported. The various teams would of course target such an obvious weakness, but they soon realized that Happy's protection of their healer was so extreme, it could be called frenzied. Against 100 Blossoms, against Misty Rain, then against Void. It was very apparent in these matches. And then Thunderclap had made clear strategic plans to target this weakness, but in the end, because Xiao Shichen was forced into a position where he couldn't give commands, his strategy was broken. If he'd been able to give voice commands, then in this battle, perhaps Happy would lose because of their cleric's inability to keep up with the rhythm. Happy's weakness was extremely apparent, but so many teams were unable to grasp it. And then in round 19, against Team 301 Degrees, Happy's weak point was broken. It was broken through brute force. 301's captain, the number 1 assassin in Glory, Yang Kong used life-risking strike to directly self-destruct and steal away in Wen Yi's little cold hands and chapter.
The King's Avatar, Chapter 1284 The Overlooked Sacrifice. Audio source, Wuxia-World-Audiobook.com. Chapter 1284 The Overlooked Sacrifice. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Yang Kong was named the number 1 assassin in the Alliance, but his assassin style wasn't particularly liked. For assassins, most people liked the thrill of a one-hit kill from life-risking strike. But Yang Kong almost never used this skill, to the point that people wondered if his scene killer hadn't even added points to this skill and only used it to bluff. But in the most recent All-Star Competition, Yang Kong's scene killer revealed the fangs of an instant kill, defeating his opponent in just 1 strike. Even though that was just a show, Yang Kong at least let everyone know he knew how to use life-risking strike, the most thrilling of all the assassin's skills. The All-Star weekend ended, and all the players returned to their normal competition conditions. But in the match against Happy, Yang Kong once again revealed his sharp fangs, and life-risking strike stole away in Wen Yi's little cold hands. This move was incredibly unexpected, and losing the healer in the team competition was deadly. Lord Grimm's little healing skills could occasionally save a situation at critical points, but relying on him to support a 5v5 team battle was impossible. Happy could only launch a full, rapid offensive, hoping that they could use this to obtain an advantage of numbers. However, 301 was clearly prepared for this situation. As soon as Yang Kong's attack succeeded, they immediately lowered the tempo of the battle and began a slow battle of attrition. Neither arrogant nor rash, they tightly protected their own healer, and ultimately they swallowed Happy like this. The battle of attrition wore on for almost 20 minutes, but nearly all of the light of this match came from that life-risking strike of Yang Kong's scene killer. This was a brilliance possessed only by assassins. During the post-match press conference, Yang Kong of course was surrounded by the reporters. Everyone was extremely curious. After 7 years of persistence, why did he suddenly change his playstyle in this match? Was it because he found inspiration from that performance at All Stars? Perhaps. Facing the questions of the reporters, Yang Kong smiled. You know, it's not that I don't know how to use life-risking strike, it's that I'm unable to use it. What does that mean? The reporters didn't understand. Because I'm 301's captain. Yang Kong responded simply. The reporters suddenly understood. The captain was a team's soul, its banner. At any time, the captain had the responsibility of leading the entire team. They might use words to encourage the team members, they might use actions to carry everyone along, but no matter how they led, the captain, first and foremost, had to be present. And life-risking strike. This was a lose-lose playstyle. After using life-risking strike, the assassin would only be left with a sliver of health. There wasn't a single team who would miss a target like that. And Yang Kong was 301's captain. He needed to strive to remain on the field. He couldn't just simply kill one target and then come off stage. Life-risking strike. It wasn't that he didn't know how to use it, but that he was unable to use it. Because he was the captain. On his shoulders, he carried more duties and obligations than others did. He could not be an independently acting assassin, because he represented not just himself but the entirety of a team. Once they understood this, the reporters suddenly realized something that everyone had overlooked all this time. From Season 4, everyone praised how Wang Jiexe, for the sake of Tiny Herb, quietly adjusted his playstyle, gradually putting away his more elegant, more attention-grabbing, more popular magician playstyle. But there was another player who joined in the same season as Wang Jiexe, another all-star level player, another team captain. From the very beginning, he had also quietly sacrificed some things, for the sake of his responsibilities. Life-risking strike was the most brilliant skill of an assassin. Perhaps compared to Wang Jiexe, Yang Kong hadn't done as much. But both players had the same determination of sacrificing themselves for the sake of their teams. For this sentiment, it shouldn't matter exactly how much was sacrificed. After realizing this point, all of the reporters present felt extremely moved. But even as they were moved, they were still curious. Then why did you suddenly use life-risking strike in this battle? A reporter asked. I was probably inspired after All Stars. After the All-Star competition, I realized that nowadays, methods like this are probably the best way I can contribute to the team. It's about time that I leave some responsibilities for other people to carry. Yang Kong smiled. The reporters were once again stunned. This was someone already preparing to give way and retire. Players from Season 3 were indeed at the twilight of their careers. Very few were still active in the circle. But how many were like Yang Kong, already deciding to step down before he'd even begun to reveal significant signs of decline? The All-Star competition. What did it allow him to see? Did being at the bottom among All-Stars allow him to see the exit toward which he was walking? Or did the younger players allow him to see a future that was worth looking forward to? None of the reporters continued to press for details. They knew that even if this was Yang Kong was doing this voluntarily, even if he could still smile gently as he faced everyone, his heart would certainly have feelings of sadness. The helplessness brought by the flow of time was cruel. Who was insensitive enough to dig into this scar for details? Yang Kong's statement already revealed many things. Team 301 Degrees was about to change their tactical core. Yang Kong's assassin stepped aside for this, and he could use a freer method to battle. Perhaps starting from this round, Scene Killer's one-hit kill Fangs would set off a new scene in the Alliance. No one would overlook the fact that this was the #1 assassin in the Alliance. Nearing the end of his professional career, he voluntarily gave up his position as the core player, and from this he would step onto the road of a true assassin. Then, after Yang Kong stepped down, who would be 301's new core? The reporters were just as curious about this question, but 301 didn't give an answer during this press conference. Looking at 301's current players, there was Lee Yihui, who'd transferred from Tiny Herb. Even though he'd dropped out of All-Stars after leaving Tiny Herb, he was still a very strong player. There was also the Blade Master player Gao Ji, whose ability had been steadily increasing the past few years. These two players both had the possibility of becoming 301's new core. But 2 days later, the Monday of the new week, in the register of people signing with the Alliance, some people discovered that 301 just signed a new contract. Not a transfer, but an independent registration. Bai Shu, a name that no one knew, silently entered Team 301 degrees. And from the public data released by the Alliance, everyone could see that this person named Bai Shu was using the character that former 301 player Zhu Bin had left behind after transferring away, the Night Tide. Who was Bai Shu? Countless people were desperate to know this answer, but the Alliance was currently on a week-long break. This year's Spring Festival had arrived relatively early. January 22nd was already Lunar New Year's Eve, only 2 days away. All of the teams were already on break. Only the Alliance was still reporting as usual on the newest transfers and replacements as they happened during this transfer window. The players of the various teams had all long gone home to celebrate the new year. Happy also became a lot quieter. WuxiaWorldAudio.com. Even Wei Chen and Fang Rui, these dirty and shameless guys, very seriously and obediently reported home for the Spring Festival. In an instant, only 3 people were left in Happy's drawing room. "It's just the 3 of us again," Chen Guo said, looking at Yi Shu and Su Mucheng. She didn't feel lonely because there were so few of them. 2 people still with her. This was more excitement than she'd ever had since her father passed away. "Yup, us again," Yi Shu said. "Is your brother coming this year?" Chen Guo asked. "Probably not," Yi Shu said. "You're not planning on going back home?" asked Chen Guo. We'll see." Quote. To this question, Yi Shu's typical calm, free, and easy attitude wavered a bit, a rare sight to see. "Then, let's get ready for the Spring Festival." Chen Guo didn't ask any further. "Are we going shopping again?" Yi Shu asked. Scared. The 2 women smirked at him. "Even my legs are shaking." Yi Shu smiled bitterly. "Then, thanks for your hard work." The 2 of them showed no intention of letting him off easy. Just as the 3 of them prepared to depart, Yi Shu saw that the door to the R&D area was unlatched, and there seemed to be sounds coming out. Yi Shu shot a puzzled glance at Su Mucheng and Chen Guo, and the 2 immediately noticed this as well. The 3 of them went forward. Yi Shu gently pushed open the door, and they saw Guan Rongfei sitting at the computer, completely engrossed in operating something, his mouth moving non-stop as though muttering something to himself. "What's going on?" Chen Guo barged in, waving her hand in front of Guan Rongfei's face. "Isn't your train at 9? What time is it now?" Guan Rongfei finally looked away in disgust after Chen Guo blocked his line of sight. After hearing Chen Guo's shout, he casually checked the time. "It's 9:40. Oh, I missed it. What are you doing?" Chen Guo shouted. If someone who didn't know what was going on saw this, it would have been really difficult to tell who was the one who had missed the train. "Working on equipment." Guan Rongfei's response was incredibly simple, so simple that Chen Guo had no response. She of course figured that Guan Rongfei was suddenly investigating some clue, and then became so focused that he forgot about everything else. But her head really hurt over how this guy was always forgetting himself like this, so much that aside from his work, everything else was ignored. "You're not going home?" Chen Guo asked. "Don't rush." Guan Rongfei raised his finger and waved it. Chen Guo suddenly thought that this guy must have reached some critical point, so she didn't dare to say any more and just waited to the side. After that, Guan Rongfei continued to lose himself in his work, seemingly forgetting everyone standing around him. "So what exactly are you working on?" Yi Zhi walked up to him. "Look, this." Quote. As soon as Yi Zhi came up, Guan Rongfei immediately grew animated, beginning to chatter away at Yi Zhi. Huh? Is that so? Let me see. As Yi Zhi spoke, he turned on another computer. Chen Guo's jaw dropped. What happened to their Spring Festival celebration? End chapter.